the 4-point play. NYU gets the win streak to 87.
All right, speaking of win streaks, what to watch for today? 1 Eastern on ABC. The Knicks are the 3 seed in the East. They host the second best team in the West, the Spurs. San Antonio coming in, riding an 11-game win streak. Their longest run since the 2015-2016 season. These Spurs' last loss coming more than a month ago in January. Hey, it's good to get a couple minutes with our NBA analyst, Quentin Richardson on SportsCenter AM. Hey, Q-Rich, what is the QR code for the Spurs to continue that win streak today against New York?
Man, listen, it goes without saying that we know what Wemby's going to do. Wemby's the alien. He's the phenom. He needs to go out there and have a huge game, and I think he's going to aim to do that in the Madison Square Garden. But what the Spurs need to win this game, they need the guards, the Castles, Dylan Harper, De'Aaron Fox. They need these guys to be at full strength and to be going at Jalen Brunson. Both ends of the floor, they need to be applying pressure on him on the defensive end where he has to guard them. Whichever one of them he's forced to guard, they have to go at him. And then they have the length and the athletic ability to give him problems when he has the ball on offense because he's not the tallest guy, and all 3 of those guys have length and tall and height on him. So they have to use that to their advantage to make it a difficult game for him offensively.
We will see the tallest guy in that game. And All right, let's get to the other one because now it is time to talk about seeding. There's a star-studded matchup on ABC. Timberwolves taking on the Nuggets. That game is going to be significant in the Western Conference. Both teams, we'll show you the standings here. They're 37-23. Denver is the 4th seed in the West right now. Minnesota right behind them. Identical records, right? Right behind them in the 5 spot. Obviously, the 4th seed hosts the first round of the playoffs. So, Q-Rich, what's the QR code now for the T-Wolves to win and leapfrog Denver in the standings today?
Ant-Man. Yeah, there's me. They need Anthony Edwards to be the superstar that he is and play big time and put buckets on the board the way that he does for them. But more importantly, on the other side of the ball, we know who Joker is and what he's capable of doing, the type of season he's having. They're going to need an extremely great game from Rudy Gobert and Naz Reid. Those 2 guys will be tasked with stopping the best big man in the game, and he's on fire right now. And they're going to have to bring their A game to give their team a chance.
All right, we're going to see that one later on ABC. That's Quentin Richardson with the Insight on SportsCenter. Thanks, Q-Rich.
Yes, sir.
All right, here's today's ABC NBA Sunday Showcase doubleheader. It's Wemby and the Spurs and Lakers over the Warriors. Big way last night in the Bay Area. Ooh. Luka Doncic put up a game-high 26 points, 16 of them in the 3rd quarter alone. LeBron James dropping 20 of his 22 in the first half. Lakers, a much-needed win, 28-point win, 2nd largest of the season, 3-game skid, no mas.
The Morning Buzz is brought to you by the ridiculously fast nasal congestion relief of Afrin.
And what to watch for today, 1 p.m. Eastern on ABC. The Knicks, the 3 seed in the East. They host the West's 2nd-best team. That would be the Spurs. San Antonio coming in, riding an 11-game win streak, their longest since 2015-2016 season. Their last loss this season coming in January. ESPN NBA sideline reporter George Sedano joining us now. George, you're going to be on the sideline reporting for Spurs and Knicks at MSG, right across the street from where you are now. And we see how dominant Wemby has been in this winning streak. What are his teammates saying about his mindset as a competitor?
Well, it's interesting, Randy. They talk about just the competitive nature of a 21-year-old. You don't normally see it from this young of a player. It's interesting because I'll tell you a personal story. So I spoke to him. I had the game right before the All-Star break, and I said to him, hey, what are you most looking forward to when it comes to the All-Star break? And he said, well, beyond the games, it means I get to get an extra hour of sleep and I don't have to be as regimented as I normally am. And yet we all know he wanted to beat everybody at the All-Star game. When you talk to Mitch Johnson, his head coach, he'll tell you everything is done deliberately. Even through his warm-ups, every single motion, no wasted motion, no wasted words even when it comes to talking to his teammates or whatnot. Just the leadership style of a 21-year-old is just unfathomable. We haven't really seen it when it comes to him. Harrison Barnes told me the best thing. He goes, man, he's a killer. He goes, whether it's chess, ping pong, or on the basketball floor, he wants to win at all costs.
And, okay, lately, the last 3 games or so, Wemby struggled offensively, but struggles have followed Karl Anthony Towns. He's a focus for the Knicks offense right now. Why has Cat struggled to find a rhythm, George, in this Knicks offense?
I think it's really just they haven't found a real flow for him within this Mike Brown offense. It's not the same offense they had last year. As you see there on that graphic, a career low in minutes, a career low in field goal percentage, and a career low in field goal attempts. By the way, that points per game is the lowest since his rookie year. The reality is, when I spoke to Mike Brown about this a while ago, maybe like a couple weeks ago, I had them. He said, look, with Cat, what we want to do is we want to have him initiate his offense in 5 different positions on the floor. But that's just not the comfort level for Cat. He wants a couple of touches inside, get him going. He doesn't get very many touches inside. And I think that's really what they need. They need to get him in the flow of the offense again and get him some of those easy ones. That way he's not just a spot-up shooter. So I think there's a bit of frustration across the board on how to make sure they get Cat involved in the offense. And Randy, they're going to need him, because if they want to win a championship and move forward from the Eastern Conference Finals where they reached last year, they're going to need a guy like Cat to be their second best player.
I mean, they're the magic number. They are 10-2 when Cat scores 25 or more. They get him there. We'll see what happens against the Spurs. Again, 1 p.m. Eastern. It's George Sedano. Thank you, sir.
You got it, Randy.
All right. And as we said, what time is the game? You haven't been paying attention. 1 p.m. Eastern, right? The ABC NBA Sunday Showcase doubleheader. Wemby and the Spurs, they won 11 straight, taking on Jalen Brunson and the Knicks. 1 Eastern at MSG. The Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets are hosting Ant-Man and the Timberwolves. It's Ernie, Charles, Jalen Rose, and Shaq. Getting it all started, 12:30 Eastern, 9:30 a.m. Pacific.
The Storm and Jay Harris with you. Lakers snap a 3-game losing streak, defeating the Warriors by 28, their second largest win this season, largest over Golden State since 2021. There was no Steph in this game, by the way. Luka Doncic's 300th career game with 25, 5, and 5, 8th most in NBA history. It was also his birthday. NBA analyst Quentin Richardson, NBA senior writer Tim McMahon joining us now. Let me start with you, Tim, and howdy. Let me just get that out of the way. You can say howdy.
Howdy, Hannah.
Okay, howdy, Tim. Okay. Obviously, the Lakers get a win, but, what's a prevailing thought about this team and how much of a threat, really, the Lakers are to contend this season?
Hannah, I got to be honest with you. I'm having a hard time finding anybody around the league, around the Western Conference, that considers the Lakers a real threat to come out of that conference. And this was a desperately needed win for the Lakers. They'd lost their last 3 games. As J.J. Redick said, some of those losses were very loud. Endings going very messy. Questions about team chemistry. They needed this win for the vibes, but beating a Steph Curry-less Warriors team, they handle their business, but that's not going to change any minds. The Lakers are still a team that's 12-16 against opponents who are 500 or better this season. And you respect the star power, but again, it's hard to find anybody who believes that these Lakers are a threat to make a run in the Western Conference.
Yeah, Hannah, I totally agree with Tim on that one. I mean, when you look at yesterday's game, they did what they were supposed to do. The Warriors, without Steph, without Jimmy, they were 12 for 44. Didn't have anybody score more than 14 points. Only a couple of guys made double figures in general. So for me, the Lakers, man, you have, like Tim said, you have to respect Luka, LeBron, and Reeves and what they could do. But the reality of it is, with DeAndre Ayton not stepping up and not playing the way that they expected him to play, they have no chance in the West if they don't have a significant big guy in the middle to help them clog that middle and be a force at the basket in some way.
Yep, and, not playing defense, that's a problem. Big matchup today, 2 legitimate contenders from each conference. Let's talk about this one. It's a good one. Spurs continuing that East Coast swing. They're going to be at Madison Square Garden, where Wemby last dropped 42 on Christmas Day 14 months ago. We know he's been struggling on offense lately, but still, he's held them to a perfect record in February. Tim, what are the expectations for him on this first day of March?
I mean, the first expectation, and always the expectation for Victor Wembanyama, is he's going to be a dominant defensive presence. Even as he's struggled a little bit here coming out of the All-Star break on the offensive end, he has been ridiculously dominant as a rim protector, as a defensive force. But he's admitted, he didn't really get a break during the All-Star break. He's fighting a little bit of fatigue here with the travel schedule and whatnot. Now, he has had a couple of days without travel in New York City, not a guy who gets distracted by the nightlife. And, you mentioned 42 and 18 in his last appearance at Madison Square Garden. Victor Wembanyama is a guy who he likes the stage. He likes the bright lights. Perhaps he's reinvigorated on the offensive end coming out today against the Knicks.
Yeah, I agree with Tim there. I mean, when you look at Victor Wembanyama, he's been a guy that's a student of the game. He knows what the significance of MSG means to the NBA and to the biggest players that's come through the NBA. So I know he knows this stage and he wants to put on the show. The guy's averaged 29 and 13 his last 5 games against the Knicks in general. So I expect him, like you said, Tim, he had a couple of days of rest without travel in New York City. He's not a guy that's going to be out in some club or anything. So you have to believe he's been rested. And I think he's going to seize the moment tonight and go out there and put on the show.
Listen, the Spurs haven't played at home in San Antonio since February 7th. They have gone on the road, a really impressive win against Detroit. They are beating everyone they face. What are folks around the league saying about the Spurs, Tim, and their ability to contend, maybe even come out of the West?
Hey, the Spurs have everybody's attention, including the Oklahoma City Thunder. They are right there on OKC's tail as SGA came back from this ab injury. I mean, there's a couple of questions about the Spurs. One is the shooting, and I'm going to tell you, Devin Vassell, Julian Champagnie, they have been shooting it extremely well lately. And then the other is just the lack of experience. This is a group, they have not had a playoff series. They haven't even had a play-in game together. Can they skip the line to make a run through the Western Conference? You can't rule it out. You cannot put ceilings on Victor Wembanyama because he will just bump his head up against them.
Yeah, I agree with that. The Spurs have they're kind of like an X factor to me because, like Tim said, they haven't experienced that painful loss or getting that experience in the playoffs. But I mean, the way they're playing and the way they're built, no one would be surprised if they do come out of the West and they do make it to the finals because they have that type of talent. And like he said, they at times they have great shooters. I mean, the shooting has been up and down, but they have capable guys that can make boatloads of threes. So I mean, no one would be surprised if they came out of the West at this point.
Yeah, and you never know from night to night who's going to come up big. You mentioned Champagnie. He came up big in their last win. And Wemby is such a tough matchup, especially for teams that don't see him often as they end this trip in Philly on Tuesday. We have to end our conversation. Gentlemen, thank you. The NBA on ABC is this afternoon. It's Wemby and the Spurs going for 12 straight at Madison Square Garden at 1 Eastern, followed by Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets taking on Ant-Man and the T-Wolves. Ernie, Charles, Shaq, Jalen Rose back on.
Some players have tried to win the championship, win a ring for years and haven't made it, and I don't want to be one of those. I'm trying to win the ring ASAP, so be ready.
How about just starting with getting back to playoffs?
Yeah.
Spurs have a 6-year drought. They're facing the Knicks today, 1 Eastern on ABC. They're on an 11-game win streak. And during that streak, Wemby is averaging more than 22 points, 11 boards, 3 blocks a game. He is a front runner for Defensive Player of the Year. Our NBA championship head coach, Michael Malone, joins us this morning, obviously there in his hotel as he gets ready to walk over to Madison Square Garden for the call. We last saw Wemby dropping 42 points there. It was a Christmas Day record in 2024. And, Coach, he's such a unique challenge for teams that don't see him often, especially. What should the Knicks' defensive game plan be for him today?
Well, after they hope and pray, they're going to have to get physical. Yeah. Because Wemby is a guy that can hurt you in so many ways, Hannah. We know about the defense, the shot blocking, but offensively, how many times in the history of this game have you seen a 7'4" player be able to knock down threes at 35%, be able to move without the ball and dominate at the rim, inside the paint? He can put the ball on the floor, has a really soft touch, and having coached against him, he presents a lot of nightmare challenges. Mike Brown will use OG Anunoby at times, but I think he's a little bit too small. Victor can shoot over him. Karl-Anthony Towns will get matchup minutes on him, has to stay out of foul trouble. And I think Mitchell Robinson off the bench will also get a chance to go out there. But against a great player, look, you have to give him different looks, try to keep him off balance.
And, you know, it's interesting because other teams have tried to, especially on this East Coast swing that they're on, really play them physically. But the Spurs are very tough to rattle. You know, Wemby, it never seems to get in his head or upset him, and the rest of the team follows suit. And then you have like a different player stepping up every night, it seems, for them, especially as he struggled offensively. I mean, what impresses you about this Spurs team?
Well, so many things. And I want to start off with Mitch Johnson, their head coach. Give him credit because, one, he's following arguably the greatest NBA head coach of all time in Greg Popovich. Not an easy challenge for any coach. And then he has them way ahead of schedule. They're a game and a half behind Oklahoma City, defending champs. They've beaten them 4 times this year, Hannah. So they're not afraid of playing anybody. And then you just touched on it. I love watching them because of their depth. We know about Wemby, everything he does, the gravity he brings. But when you got guys like Stephon Castle, reigning Rookie of the Year, one of the best two-way players in the league, the Aaron Fox, a 2-time All-Star, Julian Champagnie, who knocked down a franchise record 11 threes in their win on New Year's Eve, Keldon Johnson right here in the running for 6th Man of the Year. They have so many weapons. And when Wemby may not have a great offensive night, 2 things you know. His teammates are going to support him, and he's still going to be defensive-minded and patrol the paint and get the Spurs out and running. Yeah,
a guy who leads the NBA in blocks. Okay, so the other night you were calling the Cavs-Pistons game. And by the way, let's hope the horn works at Madison Square Garden because you were there for that 16-minute delay. So you know and have seen firsthand just how loaded the East is, okay? The Knicks are right there, but they're a very inconsistent team. And I'm just wondering how you see the Knicks right now and what you need to see from them down the stretch.
Well, I think you touched on it. I think you can go down the top 4 teams in the East and come up with one word that kind of is a question mark for them. And with New York, it is consistency. They had a 2-9 stretch earlier in the year around the new year. They came out of that, won 8 games in a row, looked great. Since that 8-game win streak, they're 5-4. They win 1, they lose 1. They've been really good at home. On the road, they're only 15-14. You know it starts and ends with Jalen Brunson, one of the greatest Knicks scorers in Knicks history, which is impressive considering their illustrious history as a franchise. But Karl Anthony Towns, I think that's the one thing that a lot of people talk about. Does Karl Anthony Towns find a way in this stretch run going into the postseason to kind of find his footing? He's averaging career lows, Hannah, in scoring, in minutes, in field goal attempts. And you want to make a deep run? You want to come out of the Eastern Conference? You better have more than just Jalen Brunson. You need other guys to step up. And Karl Anthony Towns has the resume and the talent to do so.
Yeah, but Mike Brown has already said, listen, I'm not going to scheme specifically for that to get Cat more involved. It'll be really interesting to see what happens today, Coach. I hope you have a lovely walk over to the Garden and a great call. It should be a lot of fun. Thanks.
Great seeing you, Hannah.
Yeah, you too, Coach. The NBA on ABC is this afternoon. Again, Wemby and the Spurs going for their 12th straight win against the Knicks at the Garden at 1 Eastern, followed by Nicole